Alexander Hale had faced down hostile investors, negotiated mergers worth billions, and rebuilt collapsing companies with nothing but strategy and stubbornness. But somehow, a simple blind date managed to rattle him in ways global finance never could. He wasn't afraid of people, he was simply exhausted by them. Endless smiles, endless expectations, endless games. Tonight was supposed to be the final attempt. His best friend and CFO, Marcus, had sworn this one would be different. No gold diggers, no influencers, no one pretending to like yachts, Marcus had said, waving his phone. Just a real person. Alex had snorted at that. Real people don't go on blind dates with billionaires. Exactly why she's perfect. Now, sitting alone at a quiet, upscale restaurant, Alex glanced at his watch for the 5th time. He wasn't impatient. He was preparing himself for the familiar cycle. Polite greetings, shallow conversation, disappointment, and escape. The background jazz did little to calm him. Then the door opened, and something shifted. She stepped inside with tentative grace, almost as if she wanted to disappear into the wallpaper. She wasn't dressed like the women he usually met. Her dress was simple, faded in places, but clean and well pressed. A small purse hung over her shoulder, worn at the edges. Her makeup was minimal, but her eyes, they held a quiet fire that made him straighten. She scanned the room, searching, until her gaze finally collided with his. She froze. Not the dramatic sort of freeze, but startled, like she never expected him to be that Alexander Hale. He stood automatically. Lila, she approached slowly. You're Alexander Hale. Yes, he said, offering a polite smile. Thank you for coming. She let out a breath. I almost didn't. My babysitter canceled last minute. I managed to convince the neighbor's daughter to watch my daughter for an hour or two. He blinked. You have a child. Her chin lifted slightly, not defensively, but protectively. Yes. Is that a problem? No, he said, and to his surprise, he meant it. But it was new, different, and strangely refreshing. They sat, and for the first time in months, Alex found himself unsure what to expect. Lila wasn't performing. She wasn't calculating how to impress him. She wasn't trying to read him like a prize she could win. She was simply there. When the waiter approached, she studied the menu as though each price stung her pride. She ended up ordering the cheapest thing. Alex noticed, but he also noticed the quiet determination in her eyes, the dignity with which she refused anything more expensive. So, she said once the waiter left, clasping her hands together, why is a man like you on blind dates? Work, he replied honestly. It consumes everything. She nodded. I understand. Mine consumes me too, except no one thinks being a cashier is worth losing sleep over. He leaned forward, intrigued. Work is work. You do what you need to do, yes. She smiled. Small, shy, but genuine. Exactly. Her laugh was soft, unpracticed, and real. She talked about life, survival, the struggle of raising her daughter alone, the small victories that kept her going. She didn't complain. She simply stated facts with strength wrapped in quiet humility. Alex found himself relaxing, listening, drawn in by her simplicity. She didn't want anything from him. Not status, not money, not a rescue. She wasn't dazzled by him. She saw him. Halfway through dinner, her phone buzzed. She checked it, and her face paled. Everything all right? Alex asked. She exhaled shakily. I'm so sorry. I need to check in with the babysitter. Of course, he said, fighting the unexpected sting of disappointment. She hurried away, returning a minute later, shoulders tense. I'm really sorry, she said. My daughter is having trouble sleeping. We can end here if you need to be with her, Alex offered gently. But she shook her head, surprising him. No, I'm enjoying this more than I expected. I just don't want to disrespect the sitter's time. Something warm cracked open inside him. Respect, admiration, something deeper he didn't dare name. Lila, he said, voice steady, I'd like to see you again. She blinked, stunned. Are you sure? My life is complicated. He smiled. Rare, genuine. Then maybe it's exactly what I need. He didn't know it yet, but this wasn't the end of a blind date. It was the beginning of a life he never knew he was missing. The next Saturday, Alexander Hale found himself pacing outside a small, sun-drenched playground. It was a world away from the glass and steel towers he ruled, away from boardrooms where every word was measured for profit. Here, the smell of wet grass and sand hit him unexpectedly, stirring something inside that felt entirely foreign: anxiety, anticipation, and hope. Lila arrived moments later, holding the hand of a little girl whose hair was in wild, untamed curls. The girl's bright eyes, sharp and inquisitive, instantly scanned him, sizing him up. Alexander froze, unused to being observed like this, like he actually mattered to someone small and honest. "This is Mia," Lila said softly, her hand brushing against her daughter's arm. "Mia, this is Alexander." Mia's eyes narrowed skeptically. "Alexander," she repeated, like the rich man. Alexander nearly choked on his own breath. The girl had him pegged instantly. But instead of recoiling, he straightened his shoulders and knelt down to her level. "Alexander Hale," he said with exaggerated formality, "at your service. But I promise I don't bite." Mia's lips twitched, an almost smile, but she didn't answer. Alexander sensed a test in her silence. Lila bit her lip, watching the interaction like she was bracing for disaster. He's different than he looks," she said quietly, almost apologetically. "I hope so," Alexander murmured, offering a gentle smile. "I'm here to learn, if you'll teach me." Mia's tiny eyes sparkled with curiosity. She hesitated, then offered a small hand to shake. Alexander took it, careful not to crush it, and the girl giggled, a sound so pure it made his chest ache with something he hadn't felt in years. Responsibility. Care. Something that wasn't earned in contracts or stock shares. They spent the morning on swings, slides, and sandcastles. Alexander, who had never imagined himself in such a role, found joy in the small, quiet moments: tying shoelaces, pushing a swing just high enough for laughter, and listening to Mia describe imaginary kingdoms where dragons ruled playgrounds. At one point, Mia tripped over the edge of the sandbox. Instinctively, Alexander scooped her into his arms. Lila's heart tightened as she watched him, tense but amazed. He held her daughter with ease and care, whispering gentle reassurances until Mia was ready to climb again. "I don't usually like men," Mia said quietly as she settled back into his arms. Alexander froze, meeting her gaze. "Really? Yeah," she admitted, "but you're okay. Different." It wasn't flattery. It wasn't manipulation. It was simple truth, and it struck him deeper than anything anyone had ever said in a boardroom. Lila watched, her chest tightening with a mixture of relief and disbelief. She had braced herself for judgment, for arrogance, for the shallow kind of interest she'd grown used to from men with money, but Alexander was proving something entirely new: patience, humility, and genuine affection. By the time they left the park, Alexander's suit was smudged with sand, his hands carried faint scratches, and his heart was undeniably lighter. Lila and Mia had shown him a world beyond contracts, power, and profit, a world where love, even tentative, could sneak in unnoticed, reshape priorities, and heal a man who had long forgotten how to feel. Alexander Hale sat in the passenger seat of Lila's aging sedan, gripping the steering wheel as if it were a lifeline rather than a car he didn't own. The scent of vanilla air freshener and faint traces of peanut butter from the back seat made him pause. He realized he had never noticed these little things about life before. Life beyond marble floors, steel towers, and perfectly curated hotel rooms. "You don't have to stay," Lila said softly from the driver's side, eyes on the road. "Mia's nap time is in 30 minutes. You can leave if you want to. This is messy, and I don't usually let men into this part of our lives so quickly." Alexander shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "I want to be here. I want to see." He didn't know why the words came out so earnest, so raw, but they felt true. And it terrified him a little. They pulled into a modest row house, a small, well-kept garden out front. Toys were scattered across the lawn, and a bicycle lay tipped over near the porch steps. Alexander stepped out of the car, suit jacket flapping slightly in the autumn breeze, and felt conspicuously out of place. Mia ran up as soon as the door opened. "Daddy." "Just kidding," she shouted, launching herself at him. Alexander bent instinctively, catching her in his arms. "Hey, little lion," he said warmly, using the nickname she had given him at the park. "Did you miss me?" "I did," she exclaimed, hugging him tighter. Lila watched, a strange mix of emotion swirling in her eyes. Something about seeing Alexander interact with her daughter so naturally, so effortlessly, made her heart both ache and swell. After dinner, they settled on the couch. Mia was already half asleep in Lila's lap, head resting against her mother's chest. Alexander watched them, quiet, contemplative. He felt a pang in his chest, a realization that life without these moments, without this family, would feel empty in ways money and power could never fill. He reached out, taking Lila's hand gently. She looked at him, startled, but didn't pull away. "Lila," he said carefully, "these past few weeks, you and Mia, you've changed everything for me. I've spent so long thinking I needed control over everything, that I could only rely on myself, but being here, with you two, it's taught me what matters." Her lips parted slightly, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Alexander, you don't know how hard it is for me to let anyone in. Mia, my life, it's complicated. I can't just hand it over to someone." He shook his head. "I don't want you to hand anything over. I want to be here for both of you, in whatever way you'll let me. Not to take over, not to fix things, just to be part of your lives." Lila studied him, eyes searching for any sign of pretense. She saw none, only a man, raw and unguarded, trying to connect in a way that mattered. "I think we can start small," she said, finally, a hint of a smile breaking through. Alexander nodded, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. A fragile trust, the beginning of a bond stronger than wealth or power, rooted in patience, respect, and quiet courage. As he left the apartment later, his suit now faintly dusted with the scent of crayons and cookies, Alexander realized that life outside his controlled empire wasn't just tolerable, it was thrilling. Lila and Mia had shown him a world worth fighting for, a life worth risking his carefully guarded heart. It was a crisp Friday evening when Alexander arrived at Lila's apartment again. The city lights glittered like distant stars, but inside, a different kind of warmth waited. He had spent the day immersed in deals, contracts, and endless phone calls, yet the thought of Lila and Mia had pulled him through every tedious meeting. He wasn't sure if it was love, admiration, or simply longing, but he knew it was something he couldn't ignore. Lila opened the door before he could knock. She was in comfortable clothes, hair pulled back loosely, a tired smile on her face. "Alexander," she said, a trace of surprise in her voice. "You're early. I couldn't wait," he admitted honestly, his voice softer than she had ever heard. "I wanted to see you both." Mia came running from the living room, cradling a small stuffed bear. "Alexander, you're here," she shouted, launching herself at him. Alexander bent instinctively, catching her in his arms. "Hey, little lion," he whispered. "Did you miss me?" "I did," she exclaimed, hugging him tighter. Lila watched, a strange mix of emotion swirling in her eyes. Something about seeing Alexander interact with her daughter so naturally, so effortlessly, made her heart both ache and swell. After dinner, they settled on the couch. Mia was already half asleep in Lila's lap, head resting against her mother's chest. Alexander watched them, quiet, contemplative. He felt a pang in his chest, a realization that life without these moments, without this family, would feel empty in ways money and power could never fill. He reached out, taking Lila's hand gently. She looked at him, startled, but didn't pull away. "Lila," he said softly, "these past few weeks, you and Mia, you've changed everything for me. I want to be part of your lives, not to fix anything, just to be here with you." Her eyes filled with tears. "Alexander, it's hard for me to let anyone in. I know," he whispered. "I just want to try. With you." Lila leaned into him, forehead touching his, and in that quiet, tender moment, the walls she had built crumbled completely. Alexander captured her lips in a soft kiss, gentle but sure. Lila responded, tentative at first, then fully, with all the hope and longing she had kept hidden. Mia, now awake but quiet, watched from the edge of the couch. Alexander smiled at her. "Good night, little lion," he whispered. "Tomorrow, we'll have another adventure, all right?" She nodded, hugging her bear, then drifted back to sleep. Alexander and Lila sat back, hands entwined, hearts aligned. For the first time, Alexander realized that success wasn't about wealth, power, or control. It was about these fragile, fleeting moments of love, trust, and family, moments worth more than anything money could buy. And in that quiet apartment, with the city buzzing far below, Alexander Hale knew one undeniable truth. His life had changed forever, and he wouldn't have it any other way.